playing over there, he would play in the Big Bash, and I always remember seeing him, be like, who's this? He's got a weird name. Wouldn't be where I am now without his support,
I mean, you're talking there like you're pushing 40.
It just showed the testament to the group and to the coaches and the other players. When we came on that fourth day, I was in such a good place. He's one of a kind, as you say.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Beyond the Game podcast. My name is Jess Crowe, and I'm here today with Tom Hartley. Tommy, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Brilliant, good, thank you. So today we're going to be finding out all about your journey in cricket so far, but I want to start right at the beginning. How did you get started and fall in love with cricket?
Well, it all happened when I moved schools, actually. I moved to Merchant Taylor School, and when I was about 10 or 11, and they just gave us a bat and a ball and some stumps at lunchtime, and so we were just encouraged to go out and play, and all my mates played it, so just ended up joining a club side from there. And yeah, it was just, it was a pretty fun way to get into it, and it's got me here, so it's pretty good, really.
Brilliant. And who are some of your biggest inspirations in cricket growing up?
I mean, I always used to look at Swanee, Graham Swan, watching him during the Ashes series, really giving it a big spin out the rough. Obviously Freddie was up there as well. He was huge at the time. And the likes of that, and then also playing alongside the likes of Simon Kerrigan was at my local club growing up. So watching him at Ormskirk was fantastic, and then to watch him at Lancashire was amazing as well. So and being a left arm spinner, I was just in awe, really.
Brilliant. Are there any players that you grew up watching on TV that you've now actually shared the field with?
Oh God, yeah, the likes of who plays with. Always go blank when you ask these questions. But obviously Phil Salt, I remember watching him. I remember my first couple of years in Oz playing over there. He would play in the Big Bash, and I always remember seeing him, be like, who's this? He's got a weird name. And then to play alongside him was great. Obviously Joss as well, and then I think obviously one of the greats, Sir Jimmy. He's been fantastic, and I sit near him in the locker room, so he's actually really nice to talk to. And yeah, it's just fantastic after seeing him growing up, on taking so many wickets on TV, really.
Definitely. And now let's touch on Lancashire then. So first, playing for Lancashire around 2020, how have you seen yourself develop as a person and a player throughout your time there at the club?
Yeah, I think I was, most people would say I was that pretty shy kid, never really used to speak that much. But obviously over the years, gaining confidence, I've been, a bit more of a vocal feature, around the squad a bit more. And it's just fantastic, to really, come in as a junior, feel like you've done well and sort of developed to, I'm sort of to border on that sort of senior player sort of role. I don't feel like it, but I am, and it's just been the help I've had along the way, including Carl. He's Crowe's been fantastic, and have him from such a young age at the club was fantastic, and it's safe to say I probably wouldn't be where I am now without his support and the support of Lancashire, really.
Definitely. And how important is it for you, as quite a niche spinner, to have that support system around you and have one or two people you can lean on as a mentor throughout your career?
Yeah, it's gold dust, really. Yeah, no, Crowe was fantastic. I think in the county system, I don't think there's that many specialist spin coaches, and teams only have one or two, maybe three spinners. So there's not a whole heap that counties can give them, because there's only a couple of you. So to have someone like Crowe in was just amazing, and just really opened my mind to to spin coaching and specialist spin coaching. And not only that, he was good with power hitting and batting, and having coaches who have been in franchise tournaments and that sort of stuff. They learn from the best, and they can then pass that on to you. And I know a lot of the other spinners that I've played with at Lancs have really enjoyed his company, and have come a long way since working with him, really.
Brilliant. And now let's talk about the Lancashire dressing room then. To me, from the outside, it seems like a squad full of personalities. How does each character, contribute to the team in their own way?
God, well, there's plenty of different personalities. I think, look at the likes of Hursty. He just makes you laugh. He winds you up a bit, but he's a good lad, and seeing him coming as a junior, the banter, what you say, in the change room is now passed off myself and onto the likes of him. Sit next to George Balderson, he's fantastic, pretty level headed, pretty wise for his years. And yeah, and then obviously when you get the likes of like Livingston, Salt, Saki come in, they're all very different characters, but obviously bring such big energy to the room, especially Salty, and Livy as well. So there's so many different personalities. I could go on, even Wellesley, he's one of a kind, as you say. But it's all what just makes a great change room, and we're having such a laugh. And if we could get a few more results, I think we'd all be a bit happier. But it's just a laugh going in, to be honest with you.
I mean, you're talking there like you're pushing 40 in a game. I want to know now, in a game of what do you call it, oldies and youngsters, whatever it is. Which side are you going on? Which side do you put yourself in?
I'm borderline on the youngies. I think my days are numbered. We're not very good, so I wouldn't be too unhappy. But yeah, when the older one's coming, I'm a youngie. But for a relatively young squad, I'm happy to still be in the youngies, thankfully.
Brilliant. Okay, now let's look at your life beyond the game then. When you're not doing cricket, what are you doing to relax and take your mind off the game?
Well, they got 2 dogs at home. They take up a lot of time, but they're fantastic. I love taking them out for long walks. Really takes my mind off stuff. And then, my parents have a garden centre which I really like to work in, and I do quite a lot. During this sort of time. Well, it's bedding plant season, so there's a lot going on at home. So, but I find it amazing. Because obviously when cricket's not going its best, I'm not sat at home thinking about it and dwelling on it. I can get outside, be in the sunshine, and just take my mind off things. And then I know when I come back to training or the next game that, my mind's, I feel fresh. May not physically, but mentally, I'm fresh.
I mean, you very briefly touched on your home life there. Tell us more about where you live and growing up, and especially your dad as well, which is relevant to my next point.
Yeah, so I live about 20 minutes north of Ormskirk. No, sorry, not Ormskirk, Liverpool. 20 minutes north of Liverpool, not far from Ormskirk. Yeah, it's pretty quiet, sort of in between a few towns. We're fairly, rural, sort of don't really live on an estate. And obviously we have the garden centre. So, yeah, I've just been sort of, I don't know what the word is. You just end up helping out, doing bits, doing that. And then obviously my dad's always about, and he's always pushed for me to play sports and do well. And then I think when he saw I was any good at cricket, really pushed for me to keep playing that, and I'm grateful he did. Although if he did get on my nerves at times, as all cricket dads do, I'm sure. But he's been a fantastic mentor, and obviously him being an athlete himself, he's been fantastic to talk to and sort of hear his stories from his running days, and how a lot has changed to my playing days now.
Definitely. And so now, with having your dad around growing up, was there was that like motivation for you, or was there some sort of comparison there, or seeing him doing so well growing up?
Yeah, I think my dad's a bit older, but I never really saw him in his running days. But I'd always hear a lot of stories from his friends and stuff like that. But I think it's probably more his training regime as a runner was probably pretty strict, and so he pushed that onto me. It's not got me to train all the time, but he'd always encourage me to do stuff every day, and to stretch, and to get into sort of like yoga sort of stuff, stuff that he probably wish he did more when he was an athlete. So I think thinking about it now, he's really looked at what he could have done better as an athlete and tried to put that onto me, which is really nice, and maybe in another generation I might be passing on some more. But yeah.
There we go. Okay, now going back to Lancashire slightly then. Now, I usually ask about the team bus, but I'm going to ask about the pre-season tour on a flight, 6, 7, 8 hour flight. Who are you steering clear of on the plane and who are you sitting next to?
Oh, what am I doing? I'm probably going to stay away from Hursty and probably Wellesley, just because they can get on a rant at times, especially Wellesley. He can get on a rant. And, if you just want to listen to a podcast or watch a movie or whatever, be struggling. And plus, he's a pretty big guy. So I think he'd be invading my seat a bit. And Hursty, he's just, he's a great lad, but he just has a way of getting on your nerves a little bit. And I feel like just sitting next to him for 8 hours, it'd probably do my head in a bit. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking the piss out of him a lot. He's actually a nice guy, but he just has his moments. But sitting next to someone always like to talk to Tom Bailey. He's always nice to talk to. He's seen a lot, so he'd be all right. But yeah, a few of them are quite messy, so I'm going to stay away from probably the majority of the squad if I can. Try and get a window seat or something.
Brilliant. I love how much you expanded on that point there as well. That's been going up for a while. Okay, now driving to an away match then. Whose car are you jumping in first?
Whose car am I jumping in? I think I got my current driving partner, Mikey Jones. I think he's got a good playlist. Chat's pretty good. And he's quite easy to spend time in the car as well. So I'm fairly happy. He's a safe driver as well. So don't feel like I'm going to die. So that's always the main thing.
Okay, then, if you weren't a cricket player, what would you be and why?
I'd probably just be working in the garden centre. Probably whatever you call a horticulturalist or whatever. I think it's the only thing that I'm really that good at apart from cricket, and it doesn't feel like work. So there's nothing better than that, really, is there?
Brilliant. What a great answer. Okay, then. So let's change that question ever so slightly then. If you could play another sport professionally, you don't necessarily have to be good at it, but what would it be?
I think this would be a pretty common answer, but I reckon I'd love to be a golfer. Yeah, what a surprise. I think you're always in the sun. Oh, well, I think the States has some amazing courses. I think some of the ones near me on the coast, sort of North Liverpool, are fantastic. And then obviously there's some great ones in Australia as well. So I think, wherever you go in the world, I think Dubai also fantastic, I think wherever you go, you're going to struggle to find a bad golf course if to be honest, yeah.
Of course. And now, apart from wanting to be a pro golfer, what is one thing that people wouldn't necessarily know about you?
I'm not very good at golf. I don't know. I actually really like my tennis. I played when, funnily enough, when I played out in Oz, the guy I lived with was a tennis coach, and I ended up playing in, local tournaments and, training with him and actually giving tennis lessons by the end of it. I haven't played for a while, so people might not believe it, but yeah, and I quite like watching it, to be honest with you. I think it's very fascinating, and the way they train as well.
Brilliant. There we go. Okay, well, to finish the segment then, you've probably already covered it a little bit, but who is the funniest teammate to play alongside? Not necessarily at Lancashire, in any team.
I think I'm gonna have to say Salty again. I think he never shuts up. He's always cracking jokes. Obviously, I think you'll know him as well. He, I don't know what he's on, but I want some. Yeah, that's it, really.
Wonderful. Okay, well, let's move swiftly on to the England section of the podcast, probably my favourite segment. Now, you made your England ODI debut in September 2023. Talk me through your entire emotions during that time. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, it was a complete shock. Like the day before the team got announced, wasn't in it. Went to bed thinking, about running drinks, what else, well, just like not even head around playing, and then walking down the breakfast, the head coach is calling me, I think, oh God, what have I done now? And then to play in, yeah, it was just like fantastic. And obviously, we were playing Ireland as well, so we'd been getting up. We got off to a really good start with the bat, and just knowing like there's, you got backing from the captain was Zach Crawley at the time, and there were a lot of runs on the board. So it was like obviously there was still pressure on, but you always felt that we'd win the game. So. That was just amazing, really. And then just to talk to my family afterwards, they were just over the moon. And especially Lauren, who came down to Trent Bridge, it was, not knowing she was in the crowd, and then seeing my phone after, she's like, "Oh, come see me." I was like, "But yeah, like you got here fast." But it was just a fantastic day all around, really.
Definitely. And now let's touch on that pressure then. Do you find that during that game especially, does the pressure get to you, or have you kind of found your way to cope with it now?
I think it always gets to you. I think once I get in the game after that first over, or maybe it takes 2 overs or whatever, or sometimes even a catch, just getting in the game, contributing, really seems to settle down my nerves. So, that first over, maybe if I don't look it on the inside, there's a lot I feel and a lot of emotion and just trying to stay cool. But, once I get that first over in and, I'm happy with it or whatever, I feel like the nerves settle a lot, and then I just sort of go on into my rhythm of the game and my bowling, really.
Brilliant. Okay, then you went to make your Test debut in January 2024. I'm about to get quite statsy here. So, debut January 2024 in India. You took 9 wickets overall on debut, 7 wickets in the second innings. 5th best bowling figures on debut by an English bowler. 2nd best figures on debut by an English spinner. Talk me through that entire experience. I remember watching it live. It was just crazy.
Yeah, it was such a whirlwind. I think, knowing from 2 days out that I was going to play and just sort of getting my head around that. And then, having a laugh and joke with Baz saying, like, have you ever opened the bowling before? And I was like, haha, good one. And then I saw the team and I was like, oh, he's not joking here. Because we only had one seamer in. But yeah, it was such a roller coaster. But I think, from getting hit for 6 first ball on probably 4th ball as well, I think it was. It just showed the testament to the group and to the coaches and the other players to really not, really pull me up and not let me get dragged down and get taken over by the situation. And I think, my confidence was still so high after that first day, and then it was still able to build over the next maybe 3 days, whatever. So when we came on that 4th day, I was in such a good place, and then speaking to Jeet and Patel in the morning about plans for the day, and then just really going in with the focus of trying to spin the ball as much as possible. And I was just grateful that I was able to land a few and get them wickets, and it was just and then the aftermath was just crazy, really. And I just couldn't believe it had really happened, to be honest.
Brilliant. Okay, then. So obviously that must have been a massive "I've made it" moment for you. Are you someone who gets quite content with your achievements, or are you always striving for more?
I think you're always striving for more, but I think sometimes you've just got to look around and think, well, just taking 7th on debut here, it doesn't. You don't tick, that many boxes off in one day. I think even just playing a Test match, you're always like, that's a dream, and then to get wickets and to do well is is just fantastic, really. But obviously you always want to strive for more. So in that next Test match, you want to do it again, because it's like a drug, isn't it? You just get addicted to that feeling of doing well, taking wickets, and you just want to keep doing it. And then obviously once there's the flip side to that of getting dropped out, that it just makes you even hungrier to come back for more, really.
So you've just been named in the upcoming England's white ball series against the West Indies. Congratulations on that, by the way. But how are you feeling about being named in the squad again?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Rather unexpected. But obviously they've had a shift in the team, and players coming through. So it's just fantastic that they're still thinking that I'm good enough to be involved, and showing belief in me, really. So I'm really looking forward to it. Just hoping I can get a game or two really, and show them what I can do.
Now let's move on to the franchise cricket side of things. Then
Mhm.
you've just been announced that you're going back to Manchester Originals for a 5th year now. How are you feeling about going and joining with the Originals again?
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's always nice returning to the same place. Know the staff pretty well now, and it's always a laugh really, and play in front of your home crowd is even better. So I'm looking forward to it, and just hopeful we can be as successful in them in years 2 and 3 really.
Definitely. And how have you seen the 100 as a competition itself develop over the years?
Yeah, I think obviously everyone was so unsure about it um, from the first year how well it would go down, but then just to see the crowds staying, so busy and playing in front of more and more people every year, how it feels, it's just fantastic. And as well across the country, it's been taken up by every team, so just over the moon really, because it's such fantastic comp for players. There's a bit more downtime, you get a bit more one-on-one time with coaches, and I think from a player point of view, I just think you get so much better during the comp.
Definitely. Now, playing both T20 cricket and the 100 cricket, how do you see the two differ and how do you approach them?
Yeah, I think it's different. I think there's a bit of differences in the balls. So I think actually the 100 balls. Well, personally, I don't know what the stats suggest, but they swing a bit more, so they actually add a bit more of a dynamic to that power play. It's power play on T20, sort of looking how many can we score, get ahead of the game. But sometimes you're thinking, well, we've got to get through these first 25 balls here, and then you can cash in towards the back end. So it almost tests your red ball game a bit more. And then obviously from a spin perspective, there's obviously a lot less balls, so they're coming harder for you. So it's sort of that adjusting between middle overs T20 cricket and almost pushing towards death bowling a bit for spinners. So yeah, it's interesting dynamic, and they're obviously pretty similar, but obviously there's just these little things that you pick up each year, which can make the difference really.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Originals have had some world-class signings over the years. Are there any that you work particularly closely with?
Yeah, I think during that first year we had Tristan Stubbs. Got really close with him. Really nice guy. Good to talk to about power hitting and that sort of stuff. And then Sam Amir as well. We had last few years. Sorry. He was a really cool guy. Talk about spin a lot. What he's looking to do, what he's looking other players might do. The batsmen might do to him, and sort of picking up on their tendencies. And obviously, he's played a lot more franchise cricket, so he can give that knowledge about other overseas players in a lot more detail. So yeah, it's fantastic, and we've got a few more this year. So just really looking forward to it. Really.
Great stuff. And you played your first overseas franchise tournament at the Abu Dhabi T10 for the New York Strikers. What was it like playing over there in the UAE?
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, obviously not as big as a cricketing nation, but to see it growing and obviously see the crowd sort of on them Friday, Saturday nights were really busy, really. But I think it's a great comp. I think really tests your skill as a bowler, really. And it's only being such a short comp, you really have to be on it from that first game or two, really. So yeah, I've enjoyed it, and it's just a good challenge for me, really. And fingers crossed I can get back in next year.
Yeah, and let's touch on your more of your goals then. What does your year ahead look like for you, and then the next 5-10 years as well as a player?
I think it's always tough, but for me, I still quite like playing red ball cricket. I think there's always that aim to get back in that test squad, and that starts by playing for Lancashire consistently and doing consistently well. So that's always nice. But then also on the other side of that, there's a lot of these franchise comps coming on now. So obviously it's a pretty good money on earner for players now to get involved. And so you always got to look at that part of your game. But at the same time, both red and white ball complement each other. So I think for me personally, over the next few years, if I can keep trying to do both as much as possible, then fingers crossed you start to get you can go on a few more test tours, or you pick up some franchise gigs, really. And the aim is to be as busy as possible, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
Mm.
Okay, great stuff. Now we're going to finish on a couple of games then. So these games are blind ranking and this or that with players. Have you played these before?
No, but I've seen a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically with the blind ranking, it's 1 to 5. I'm going to tell you 5 Lancashire spinners. They're not current players, so there's no pressure there.
Okay.
And you basically blind rank them 1 to 5, okay?
Okay.
So the first one is Gary Keddy.
3.
Okay, Murali.
1.
Jack Simmons.
I'm gonna say 4.
Oh, and then Simon Corrigan.
2.
And Gary Yates.
Yatesy 5.
Okay, 5. This or that with T20 bowlers. So first one being Harbhajan or Dan Vettori.
I'll go Vittori.
Okay, Vettori or Graham Swan.
Vittori.
Vettori or Shane Warne.
Warney.
Okay, Warne or Kumbale.
Warn.
Warne or Sunil Narain.
Sunil.
Okay, Narain or Adam Zampa.
Sunil.
Narain or Imran Tahir.
Sunil.
Okay, Sunil Narain or Rashid Khan.
Rashid, I think.
Whoa. Sorry, Sunil. Okay,
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Rashid Khan or Adil Rashid.
Sorry, Rash. I'm gonna have to go with Rashid. Rashid Khan. Rashid Khan.
Okay, Rashid
Yeah.
Khan. There we go. Great picks. Okay, and then finally, then we finish on a segment where you have to ask the next guest a question. But before we do that, I've actually got the last guest to ask you a question. So I'm gonna play it on screen now.
So if I was to play golf against you, off scratch, both of us, with 100 quid on the line, who's taking the money?
I have no idea how good he is. I mean, I haven't played in ages, but obviously you've got to back yourself. So I have to say myself, but I wouldn't mind seeing JT swing first, to be honest with you.
Well, there we go. I think, yeah, you've got to back yourself. Okay, and now your question for the next guest. You can have a minute to think if you need it.
Okay. So, if I bowl an over at you, how many runs do you think you're taking me for?
Wonderful. We'll find out next episode. Well,
Right.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.